Now, to discuss this further, we're joined live by Russ Baker, an investigative journalist and the editor of WhoWhatWhy investigative reporting site. Welcome to the programme, Russ. Quite interesting, this whole story, isn't it? Why do you think it's so easy to get away, it appears this way, to get away with making such serious allegations without giving any proof to those media outlets?
Yeah, I was just looking at this Washington Post story, and my preliminary analysis is to call it fake news about fake news. What you're seeing is a very vigorous propaganda war. The two entities and the various so-called experts at the Post sites seem to me to be people who have an agenda. I'm not saying that Russia has or has not been involved at all, but I think that this article itself is fairly irresponsible. It doesn't even check out these sources as to what their own qualifications are or what their own interests are. And we haven't seen any proof of that. And I think it's very, very dangerous. The reason I started WhoWhatWhy is because we need people who will not be taking one side in these sorts of things and evaluate them. And I think this is an example of that kind of thing. It's very, very dangerous.
Isn't it true, Russ, that we have the traditional mainstream media, but there is no doubt that the popularity of alternative, non-mainstream media is quite apparent. Do you think that there's anything in maybe this fake news being used as a way of possibly getting rid of that competition?
I do think there's a lot of alarm on the part of the establishment media that they are losing their audience and their influence. And I think what they're doing is conflating some real things. I think there is fake news out there. There is real disinformation out there. But they're attempting to paint with a broad brush and to sort of criticize or attack anybody doing independent journalism. And this is a danger, and in a sense, this makes them just as bad as the people that they're criticizing.
It seems quite ironic, doesn't it, that they are going down this route? I mean, if we go back to the Washington Post article, how credible do you think their independent political analysis is in that article?
In the Post article, I don't know that it is independent. One of the organizations that they quote, they say that the executive director is anonymous because of fear of some sort of retribution. Well, that's just absurd. How can you quote a supposed think tank or nonpartisan organization where you don't even know who their executive director is? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It wouldn't pass any muster in any journalism school, frankly. But I also want to say that there's a broader issue here, and that is that all countries seek to influence people's perceptions. Russia does it, the United States does it, Britain does it, they all do it. And we need to be a little fair in the United States when we're talking to our own population and helping them to understand the role of our own government in doing these kinds of things and meddling in other countries and their histories and in their politics, and the role of places like the Washington Post historically in carrying water for those efforts.
Well, Russ is certainly making interesting discussion on mainstream and non-mainstream media. Thanks very much for joining us here on RT International.
Thank you.